Hello and welcome to the 39 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast, Week 6 Preview. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney III. I want to say thank you to our good friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get ready for a new season of fishing fun with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Reel in the best gear at low prices every day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1-hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. I have reeled in two rock stars for this podcast, pun intended, the great Joseph J. Healy and the icon known as Stitchhead. I mean, like the seal of college baseball. Who Stitch, you got any other one name, like in your phylum of one-named, one-worded people like Stitchhead, Seal? Who else could we throw in that group?
Well, Bono, obviously.
Bono.
That would be, Cher if you want to go to more popish music and an Academy Award winner. So there's a couple that you could probably go to other than that.
Sure, well done. Yeah, Joe, you got any? You're usually really good at these things.
We got Pele, the soccer player.
Oh, nice, well played.
Yeah, classic one there. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of. I mean, the famous ones, of course, Stitch God, the Bono and Cher. I think are the two ones that come to mind.
Can't forget Charo too. Charo was always on the low. So
that's true. It's a good point.
Yeah, I've heard Cher often referred to as the Stitchhead of the music world, but
no, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right now, people are going, okay, I know Cher, Stitchhead. What the hell is that?
No, not our people. Not our people. So, boys, good to see you. So let's do this. I'm gonna whip you guys around the country, and we will preview Week 6. Here's the rules of engagement. We're going off the grid tonight. So I'm gonna pick an area of the country, maybe even a league or a conference. I'm going to read you some of the series of interest, and then you're going to pick one, and I get to ask you a question about that series.
Yeah.
So you pick from the menu, and then I get to ask you a question. And then you just say, you guys are both veteran interviewees, and so I know that if I ask you a terrible question, you will just give me the Heisman and provide a great answer. That's what great interviewees do. I know that you've experienced that many times on radio interviews where someone says, Stitch, you follow college baseball. Why are there 4 balls and 3 strikes? And you don't embarrass the person. You just, you discard the bad question. You give a great answer. So
true.
That's so true.
Yeah, you guys
Thinking
are both
on your feet.
Yes.
Improvising.
You guys both do a high volume of radio interviews, volume shooters, if you will. So, yeah, let's start on the West Coast, Stitch, where you and I live, and then we'll work our way around. So now don't consider the Big 12 the West Coast. Also, don't consider the Big 10 the West Coast, even if those teams live on the West Coast. So let me give you 4 air quotes West Coast series to choose from. Stitch, you're going to go first. Grand Canyon at Abilene Christian is of interest to me. San Diego at Loyola Marymount is of interest to me. Irvine at Santa Barbara is of interest to me. And the Beavs of Oregon State are going to Cal Poly. So Grand Canyon, Abilene Christian, San Diego at LMU, Irvine at Santa Barbara, Beavs at Cal Poly. Stitch, you're going to go first. And Joe, if you want to talk about the same series, we can do that. Don't be afraid to double up. Go ahead, Stitch. Pick a winner there.
All right. West Coast, Best Coast. Actually, it's ironic you've mentioned 3 series that I will be going to in person.
No way.
And signing autographs, people.
Hey now.
So I'll be going to LMU on Saturday night, just to see what the hell's going on with USD. I can't believe that they've had such a crap start to this season, and they lost 14 games all last year, and they had a good number of players coming back. Not Jacob Christian, of course, but it's just really, that one is a head scratcher. But I'm going to start up on Cal Poly and Oregon State. And Runes, I think you can appreciate this because we've talked about this ad nauseum in the past about Cal Poly always gets off to terrible starts, and they play too tough of a schedule really to put a good record together. And this year they haven't. They're 13-6. It might be the first time in about 96 years or so that they've been had a good record going into conference play, or early in conference play in this case. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Cal Poly play against Oregon State game. That's Oregon State team that everybody knows about. They're 16-3, and everybody knows that they're going to be they're up in the top 10. But Cal Poly is one of these teams that's kind of one of my off the radar teams to watch. You'll read all about it in my off the top of the head coming up tomorrow morning. But Cal Poly last week, I know it was only air quotes only Long Beach State, who isn't the greatest offensive team, but their 3 starters combined for 20 innings and gave up 2 earned runs in the 3 games. So but the week before that against Fullerton, they gave up like 25 runs in 3 games. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see who shows up in this one. Of course, Oregon State with Avery Arquette, with Caraway and Easton Talt. They just have so much good offense to offer, and I've seen them play twice this year, and they've bludgeoned the ball both times I've seen them. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with Cal Poly, Larry Lee and his Mustangs against Oregon State. That's what I'm really looking forward to. And then on Sunday, I'm going to head down to see Santa Barbara and Irvine, because those are the top 2 teams, preseason top 2 teams in the Big West. And that series will probably go a long way in deciding who wins the Big West, along with Cal Poly and Hawaii probably. So yeah, I'm looking at Cal Poly and Oregon State as being the one that I'm really most interested in. I want to see if Cal Poly is for real and if they can stack up and get a win or 2 or 3 against Oregon State.
Stitch, this is why you're such a great radio interview and why you're solicited for radio interviews so much, because I didn't even have to ask you a question and you just absolutely nailed your answer. I will ask you a question, though. If I asked you to pick the winner of the Irvine-Santa Barbara series, what is your gut telling you?
Gut's telling me Santa Barbara, because Irvine's had problems the last few weeks. I mean, they're still good. They're still got, what is their record, 14-5. Their starting pitching, though, it's not been great. They've been relying too much on their bullpen. So I'm going to go with Santa Barbara, even though Bremner and Flora have been good and a little shaky at times, but they've been okay, and they can win with those guys. But I'm going to go with Santa Barbara. Plus, they're playing at home, obviously, is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, that the home team tiebreaker. Your point on Cal Poly is well taken. They started off 1-5. They went 12-1 since then. Good for them. That's good for the league. They're 6-0 in the league, and it is weird. Like they get run off the field by UCLA, give up 1 million runs. Then they shut down A&M, and then the same thing what you're saying in league play. But no, that's good. Joe, what which series of the Western section would you like to talk about?
Yeah, it actually worked out pretty well that Stitch handled those 3, because I'm intrigued by Grand Canyon and Abilene Christian, because Abilene Christian has been on the rise a little bit the last couple of years, but I will say their start this season is a little bit suspect just given the competition, right? Like I tried to find a way to dance around that and say it a nicer way, but like it just is, like, okay, they won a game against Illinois on opening weekend. Okay. But other than that, it's Youngstown State, it's Arkansas Pine Bluff, it's Prairie View, and it hurts my heart to say Sam Houston, not very good. So, so I just want to know, like, they're at home against Grand Canyon. If you win this series, I think you have to start thinking about it a little bit differently and say, okay, yes, the schedule was soft, but these guys are actually probably pretty good. And it's not the easiest place to play, not because the atmosphere is tough or anything like that, but Abilene out in West Texas is a very windy place, very flat. The wind is always howling. So they build towards that. So if you have a day when the wind is howling out, Grand Canyon's not really used to playing in that type of environment. Couple pop flies get out of the ballpark, it kind of throws you off. It kind of the game starts speeding up on you. Like weekends can get away from you there just because of some of the elements. So I'm fascinated to see how real is Abilene Christian, I think is kind of the thing I'm getting at this weekend.
Coach Healy, if I here's my follow-up question for you. If I don't own a Learjet like Stitchhead, right? Like if I don't have my own jet, how do I get to Abilene? Do I fly to Dallas and drive?
I mean, you're going to probably be driving. Abilene, I'm sure, has a regional airport. But yeah, I would say the most cost-effective way is probably just to fly in to some other metropolis and drive. The trouble is it's not that close to really anything. You could fly into Dallas. You could fly into maybe Midland, Odessa, and then drive. But either way, you're probably getting in a car.
Yep.
I think you can fly into Dallas and then take Rattlesnake Airlines from there to.
That's right. That's right.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, and no, and that's a literal thing too, because it's a prop plane and it's like 4 seats, and all the other seats are taken up by crates of rattlesnakes.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just
That's it.
they're just transporting rattlesnakes, and you get the other seat.
Oh my goodness, that sounds
Here
amazing.
comes the hate mail from Abilene.
Yeah, that's right. You know, living in Prescott, Arizona, in northern Arizona, I have Googled probably at least 10 times what to do when bitten by a poisonous snake, because we do have those up here,
Oh, yeah.
including rattlesnakes. But
Have
what
you
you
ever
learn.
encountered one, Runes?
No, I've seen one on a hiking trail, kind of going across the trail, maybe like 7 yards ahead of me, but I haven't. We have a lot of gopher snakes in our
Mhm.
deal, but yeah, not looking forward to that first encounter. That's for sure.
Especially with
Not.
dogs. You have dogs too, so be
Yeah,
careful.
we had dogs, and that always scared the bejesus out of me that one of the dogs was going to run up on one of those things. But yeah, we were lucky there. Long story short, though, for dogs, problem. For an adult bit by a rattlesnake sounds like, for an adult male of substantial weight, bit by a rattlesnake's not like, don't panic. You
Yes.
should, unless you decide to like play hurt for a month. I would definitely. I would address it, but you don't need to panic. Like you're not going to die in 3 seconds.
It might
Nope.
ruin your day.
Yes. Yep. So, boys, this was a great segue, because now I want to talk about Tecovas boots. And if you love our game, you know that smell, the one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken-in glove made with real leather. That's exactly what you get with Tecovas boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life like Stitchhead, or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they're built to last, feel great right out of the box, and look even better. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your pair today at Tecovas. Stitch, any truth to the rumor that Tecovas Boots had asked you to be one of their boot models, and you declined because you just have too many things going on right now?
Yeah, too much NIL going out. Yeah. I had to look, whenever I found out, I had to look up what the hell Tecovas Boots was. I had no idea. And, Lady Stitchhead, who does all the photography of the College World Series so well, much better than me, she said, why don't you get some Tecova boots and dress up like some of those girls at those SEC football games and wear them with your dolphin running shorts? I said, that's not a bad look. I might do that for my next baseball game. So there you go.
Oh my
Tecovas
gosh.
Boots, send me out a pair.
That's right, Stitch. You need to be doing that in the photo well at Charles Schwab. What are they? Is that what they call it? The photo well, the photo bank?
Right.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Photo well.
Yeah,
Okay.
photo well, and it will be hot enough to wear dolphin shorts there. That's for damn sure.
Yes, 100%. So,
Yeah.
but great segue from Rattlesnake Airlines to Tecovas Boots to the Southeastern Conference. Here are the series. Every series in the Southeastern Conference is of interest. I mean, everyone but one, I think, basically. But I've got Auburn at Kentucky, Georgia at Florida. Florida will not have Liam Peterson. South Carolina's at Arkansas, LSU at Texas, Tennessee at Alabama, A&M at Vandy. Now, Tennessee and Bama are playing right now. Liam Doyle struggled tonight. A&M and Vandy. Ryan Prager struggled tonight. Mississippi State at Oklahoma. And again, I think it's fair to say LSU at Texas is the marquee series. Stitch, which one jumps out at you?
Okay, this time I won't just start rattling off information about the series. I'll say LSU, Texas. Go ahead. What's your question?
My question is, what about that series interests you?
Oh, great. That's easy. That's a softball. I'm interested because it's baseball. Next. No,
yes. Okay. Well done.
No, it was what was it, like maybe 5 years ago, right before the year before, 2019, I guess. LSU last played at Texas, and I went to the last 2 games of that series, and LSU just got run out of town in that game. It was kind of like this year. They played a bunch of tomato cans before they played somebody really good, and they went on the road for the first time. And going to Austin is not an easy place to go first time on the road for the season. So I mean, obviously this was a team 5 or 6 years ago. It's not going to be the same team, obviously, but I'm just interested to see how they do going to Texas as their first true road games. They obviously went on the road to play in that Peaks events. Was it Round Rock, I think? Or
yep.
I think it was. Or Frisco. I think I played in Frisco. Anyway, I'm really interested to see how LSU does in that environment on the road for the first time for real this season. And I think because it's really interesting because like Brian O'Connor said to me when I went and saw Virginia last week up at Cal, and we were talking a little bit just right before we actually interviewed after the game, but he was just like, we were talking about Creighton basketball because we're both big fans. And he goes, what about Rick Pitino, what he's done at St. John's? I'm like, oh my God, I know that guy's been great. And anywhere he goes, he wins. He goes, yeah, don't tell me, Brian said, don't tell me coaching doesn't matter. Just look at Rick Pitino. So I kind of say the same thing with Jim Schlossnagle. Don't tell me coaching doesn't matter. Look what A&M's done since he left there. And Texas is, we're talking about Texas, a team number 8 in the country now. So yeah, really intrigued about that game or that series. I mean, big ballpark, not as many home runs usually hit there as far as other SEC ballparks go, but really interested to see because I had a great time there the last time, but LSU really took it on the chin. So we'll see if that comes back to haunt them again.
I love it. I think I feel like LSU is going to win that series and be the clearly better team, but you just kind of talked me off of that ledge a little bit, Stitch. That's where it would make it more even series. Joe, feel free to talk about that series too if you want, but if you have a different one you want to talk about, go for
it. Yeah, I'll just my stray thought on that series, I think, is that I've said on radio a few times the last couple of weeks, I think this Texas team is just going to be one of those teams that maybe in SEC play a decent number of times they're going to be certainly on the mound, the less talented team, but they're just going to win a bunch of games kind of ugly, and they're going to scratch and claw. And it's, Schlossnagle's first A&M team was like that, right? Where they were short on the mound. The offense didn't have a lot of necessarily, household names, but they ended up in Omaha, and those games were kind of brutal to watch, right? They were like 4 hours long, but they won them. So, you had to give them that credit. So I think this might be that. Anyway, I'm also interested in Auburn and Kentucky because I just have a lot of questions about everything with those teams. Kentucky scored a bunch of runs in Athens last weekend, but gave up even more. So are either of those things real, or was that just one weekend in Athens, a ballpark that plays really small? I'm more interested in the offensive piece of that, just given how much they lost off that roster. By the way, Ryan Waldschmidt and Emilian Petre already in big league camp this spring.
No way.
Now, granted, it was that kind of deal where it's like they were never going to make the club, but it's like, but they brought them on for a reason, right? So, so those guys are moving quick. So I'm curious about that. On the Auburn side, what are they doing with Cade Fisher? They're still starting him, but it's short outings. So how much can they bank on that? What does Sam Dutton look like? He's been great the first 5 weeks of the season. Is that real? Will that continue? That's something I'm thinking about. Will the Auburn offense be able to continue to do it without Ike Irish? They were pretty good last weekend without him. They got the job done against Vanderbilt, but certainly not having him in the lineup as time goes on will become a bigger and bigger issue depending on how long he's out. So it's one of those series that it's in Lexington. So in the SEC, you always have to think about, home road stuff. But if you told me any outcome of this series, I think I'd believe you because I just don't have a good feel for it. And that's what makes it fun.
Joe, I have a follow-up question on a different series for you, and then we'll go to the ACC. So I haven't looked at the score since we hit record here, but obviously Tennessee's at Alabama. Here's my question for you. Does Alabama have to play like the series of their life to play with Tennessee? Or is it possible that maybe Tennessee is more human than we think they are?
Well, I mean, I think regardless, Tennessee's more human than we think they are. That doesn't mean they're not the number one team in the country, but even the best teams in the country are going to have weekends that are just kind of stinkers. So I think that's that's possible. I'm not betting on it. So I think the answer is in between. Alabama's going to have to probably play its best weekend of the season to win this series. Not necessarily a perfect weekend, but its best weekend. But when you're looking at, look, Alabama may have the best player on the field in Justin LeBron. Now, Tennessee might have the next 6 best players after that on the field, but certainly Alabama has a guy who could play on any field. And that offense, I think, is really good. So they're going to be willing to get in a scrap with Tennessee. It's just a matter of, can Alabama put up enough zeros to allow their offense to keep them in the game? That's what I'm dubious of, I guess, is especially once you get into the bullpen, is Alabama going to be able to do enough to hold them at bay and give the offense a chance to keep pace? That's my big thing.
And I will say, like in the first part of that game, the home plate umpire was tight. Liam Doyle sprayed his fastball around and got himself into trouble. And what you just referred to, Joe, Justin LeBron hits a bases loaded, clearing 3 RBI double in the gap off of Doyle. So it's like, but still it's 6-3 Alabama when I just looked, and you still feel like Tennessee's going to win, right? Like they feel like absolutely, unless you've got a stick of kryptonite in your equipment bag, good luck with the Volunteers. All right, so ACC, North Carolina is going to Boston College. They're going to Beantown. Wake Forest at Clemson. Florida State at Miami. That kicks off tonight. Now that has not kicked off well for Miami, but that game one is being played. It's not going well. Canes fans, hide your eyes. Duke at Virginia, and then Cal at Stanford. So North Carolina at BC, Wake at Clemson, Florida State at Miami, Duke at Virginia, Cal at Stanford. Those were just 5 I highlighted. Stitch, what say you? What's your series of interest there?
Yeah, I didn't know about the Miami game. What is the score of that one right now? Do you have it in front of you?
It was 11-1 in the 7th when I peaked.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Ruh-roh.
Well, I had this thing as part of my off the top of my head. I said how do I have it here? It's a prove it or lose it weekend. A basketball coach in high school used to say things like, Sorenson, if you turn the ball over like that again, I'm going to sit you on the bench and forget about you. Well, these teams, and I had Miami and Duke as 2 of the teams that look, you got to make your stand now or we're going to forget about you. Duke didn't look very good against Stanford last week. But Miami, I don't know a lot about, but I just keep thinking, you know what? They're going to be irrelevant again if they don't get a W or 2 or 3 against Florida State. And now it doesn't look like they're going to get it tonight. But that was the thing. That was the thing I kept thinking is those teams, especially Miami, we wonder if they're going to come back, if they're ever going to come back again to be what they used to be. But they're going against Florida State team. And I just looked this up before we went on. Florida State's it's 3rd in ERA at 2.67, and they're 5th in the country in hitting. So I think Miami's really up against it in that series. And as you just pointed out, it's not going so well yet. But it's still a work in progress, I think, in a way for Miami. I still think you give them a little bit of rope, but I just don't know if we're going to be mentioning them much this year if this series continues as it's going.
Yep. I think Florida State's so interesting because that's a baseball school with a lot of resources. Like they have a lot of natural resources. And I think Link Jarrett, if I could only pick one coach to manage a college baseball game, I think I would pick Link. And I just think he's a college baseball savant, and he's very motivated. Like if you talk to Link Jarrett about Mike Martin not winning a national title, you would leave that conversation think that Link Jarrett made 17 errors every game that he played in Omaha, which is not true, by the way. Like it's so personal to him. Like he feels like his teams in the early 90s blew it. No, of course they didn't. They were elite and they were in Omaha 3 out of 4 years. But man, he takes that personally, and it's almost like he will not rest until he has rectified that. It's wild.
And he will eventually. You just know.
He's like the Liam Neeson of college baseball.
Yeah. I do not have any money,
That's right.
but I do have a set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you.
That's right. Without the murder part, he's like Liam Neeson.
Metaphorically, he will metaphorically kill you.
Yes. Well said, Coach Healy. Joe, what do you like in the ACC?
Clemson and Wake stands out. Obviously, two top 11 teams. I guess I called Wake's game on Tuesday against Liberty, and I was. And midweek is different than weekends. We understand that. So some of the stuff that happened to Wake on Tuesday, I think is a one-off. Like they really had trouble with the strike zone. They gave Liberty way too much. I don't think that happens on the weekend with their top guys. However, what does concern me a little bit is the team outside of Merrick Houston. They've not been a very good defensive team. Mm-hmm. And against Clemson, I think that's a tough matchup, given Clemson's athleticism, given the way Clemson puts the ball in play, given the way Clemson likes to be aggressive. I don't know that just doesn't seem like a great formula for a team that's struggling defensively. So as talented as Wake is, I just think this is maybe kind of a matchup problem for them in some ways. So, and also this would be in keeping with the way every year we kind of come into the year and look at Clemson and say, okay, I could see it. And then they just kind of blow our expectations out of the water, and we just need to learn our lesson eventually. This would be in keeping with that for sure. So that's that'll have my eye this weekend for sure.
Yeah.
Were you about to use the term Clemsoning or something? They used to use that for football. Oh,
I remember that. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no. It's kind of the opposite now, where we kind of keep underrating like these back-itch Clemson teams, and then they overachieve the expectations for us idiots who do the prognosticating.
So great. You guys will appreciate this. I'm on a soccer thread with my brother, and the English people and our listeners in London, cover your ears, but English people tend to be so negative and sour about everything. And so one of my favorite things about soccer is that, like what you just said, Stitch, about Clemsoning, they use it as an adjective. So like the Tottenham Spurs, like if a team starts to choke or lose, it's called being Spursy. One of my teams is Leeds, and they're like, oh, that's very Leedsy of them. It's just like it's anything to just bring in the negativity. I love that. Yep. So, which, by the way, that's why I put North Carolina on here. North Carolina at Boston College ordinarily would not be like a marquee series, but Boston College did win a series at Virginia, and they are not an easy team to play under Todd Interdonato, and North Carolina is at risk of losing 3 straight series to open ACC play, and that ain't nothing. So
yeah. I think Todd Interdonato is just a matter of time. It's just the only thing is time, and he's going to turn that thing around, just like he's done at a couple different places already. So that's my interjection on that one.
Yes, I agree. He's excellent and very unique and out of the box thinker. What about Cal and Stitch? What if you went to just a random university in America and went into the science department and tried to pick a professor who doesn't know anything about sports and say, hey, what do you think about Stanford and Cal calling themselves the Atlantic Coast? Like what's going on with those schools? I mean, that is quite amazing.
Me going into anything science related, that's just not going to work, because I'm too stupid to do. I didn't even need science as part of my major at LSU, thank God. But yeah, I think the first thing that the guy is obviously, the scientist would be much smarter than me, obviously, and he'd go, well, with those two being in the Atlantic Coast Conference, let me guess, it probably has something to do with money. That's what he'd say, and he'd be right. He'd be spot on, because at the end of the day, the answer to all your questions is money, and that's the only reason they're in the ACC.
Yeah, follow the pesos. Well said. Boys, let's go to the Big 12. The Big 12 has never been more interesting to me than it is this year. This week, there are 2 series that I think we have to lock in on. Arizona, who has played awesome since the first weekend, and it seems like they have completely fixed their pitching problems. They're going to West Virginia, who's like a lot and 1. I can't remember if it's like 19-1 now or 20-1, but they're a bunch and 1. And then Kansas is going to Arizona State. Kansas is off to a whale of a start, and Arizona State won a series at TCU last weekend. So, Stitch, pick a winner there. What's of interest there?
God, both of them are. It's like picking between your children. You can't pick one. But I'll go with. I do agree with you on Arizona. They've been 16-1 since opening weekend, and again, we've talked about we're talking about teams that haven't really played anybody. West Virginia is in that same boat of playing a bunch of stiffs, but they got a good record out. At least they haven't been losing these games. But I'm going to go with KU going to Arizona State. I really love what Dan Fitzgerald has done at Kansas in Lawrence. Everybody on his team is practically a transfer. And they've just, now they're, what are they, 17-3 or maybe 17-4. I think they lost on Tuesday night to Arizona. But I'm kind of looking at KU saying, all right, this is your chance to step up. This is your chance to really show us something. I'm not the saying that Arizona State's they're not the bee's knees necessarily, but they are 14-7. I think they're better than they've been recently. But again, this is KU going on the road to a place like in Phoenix, to Phoenix to play the Sun Devils, and we'll see what they're made of. I really love the fact that Brady Council, their transfer from Minnesota, has really lit it up this year, and Jackson Hogg, a transfer from Minnesota State, Division II, has really lit it up. He's got 11 home runs already this season. I think that's like second or third in the country. So really interested to see how that plays out at Phoenix Memorial Stadium. Actually, Runes, you could answer this better than me. I'm not sure if that place is much of a launching pad. I would assume it is, just because of the desert environments. But a little bit of edge for KU if it is, if they can get the ball up in the air and get some hits out of there. Again, we're talking about an Arizona State team that scored 26 runs against TCU in one game last week, so it's not like they can't put a bunch of stuff on the board too. So interesting series. We'll see if the pitching shows up for either one of them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how KU responds to a challenge.
Yeah, it's Phoenix Muni remember, it's an old spring training park, which they always make very big because they want to see outfield range. But then you have the desert part, which the ball jumps. It's warming up in Arizona big time. And then Tracy Smith, when he was the head coach at ASU, he moved the fences in significantly, which is a long way of saying it's a bandbox. Like it is, it's 100% cotton stadium. It is, yes, it is. Does not play big. So Joe, what say you about Arizona and West Virginia?
Yeah, that's just such a tough trip to make, and it's not even just the time difference or whatever. Like, although that's a factor, obviously, but it's also just, I mean, talk about places that are not easy to get to. Morgantown. It's you fly to Pittsburgh and it's not that bad, but you're doing a bus trip once you get there. And it historically is just kind of a difficult place to play. I haven't looked at the weather. I guess I could pull it up as I'm talking here, but I'm assuming it's going to be pretty chilly in Morgantown. And oftentimes it looks kind of dreary this time of year there. And so it's just a difficult place to play. And you compound that with the fact that WVU has just such a good sense of self as a program, that, it's not a team that lays a lot of eggs in big series is my kind of feeling on that. Offense has been really good this year. I will say that I'm not really sure what to make of West Virginia's pitching staff when you consider that the competition has been what it is. Bullpen looks strong. Griffin Kern's been pretty good in his starts, but I just don't know what that's going to look like when you come up against an Arizona lineup that does have some physicality that they just haven't had to contend with yet. So I'm going to bet on the home environment in Morgantown being kind of a difference maker here. I will also say on KU real quick, I am personally invested in KU and Kansas State, both continuing to play well as time goes on, because I'm scheduled to go to the Sunflower Showdown next month. It could be the most consequential Sunflower Showdown between KU and Kansas State, like, in a while. And so I would like those teams to continue to play well so that stays as relevant as possible until I get there. So,
cool. I love it.
So,
can you guys imagine being on the marketing team in Kansas for that series, and your charge is to make an expression for this big in-state rivalry, and you submit to your boss Sunflower Showdown, and your boss is kind of like, really, that's what you got? And I mean, you're looking at him like, you made me use sunflower. Like, what do you want me to do with this?
Sunflower seedling showdown.
Poison your sunflower. I mean, you'd have to get really just off the radar for that. Maybe we'll take that away as homework.
I think the best thing you can do is get the prog rock band Kansas to actually play after the game with a fireworks show after that. Well, Carry on, that. Wayward son.
That's exactly right.
My other follow-up question was going to be if Rattlesnake Airlines flies direct to Morgantown or only Abilene, but I think I know the answer to that.
I don't think they fly east of the Mississippi.
That's right.
Yeah, they'd have to connect with Opioid Airlines.
Oh, hey now. Look out. Hey,
that's Eric Sorenson, everyone.
That's right.
Just so you know.
Well
Find
said.
me wherever you want. Buy me a brew.
That's right. That's right. So let's do the Big Ten next. And I only circled three, the Big Ten, which is also geographically confused. So I've got Michigan at Purdue is interesting, Michigan State at Penn State, and then Indiana at UCLA. Michigan at Purdue, Michigan State at Penn State, Indiana at UCLA. But we could talk about any of the other ones if you want. Stitch, what pick a winner there?
Yeah, I kind of have to default to UCLA, Indiana, because I've seen both those teams, and I really don't know a ton about the other four I will as the season goes on. I promise you guys. But yeah, I think UCLA and Indiana is probably the one I'd like to see. Just because I think UCLA is a team that should be ranked right now. I just think they kind of finally put it together. And the pitching's been pretty good for UCLA. The hitting is the thing that's really been the best, because the last 2 years, they've really kind of had a crappy offense, and that's been the Achilles heel. They've always had good, talented pitchers, but this year they're coming around. I mean, the team is hitting just south of 300, and Rock Shalosky, I hope you guys get a chance to see him play sometime soon. He's just a great. He's kind of one of those guys like last year. Remember, or maybe it was year before. Remember Connor Burns for Long Beach? You were on that, Mike. You were on that call,
Yeah.
And you were saying how much you loved that he directed everything. He was a communicator, calmed players down, calmed pitchers down specifically. Rock Shalosky's kind of the same way. He's just a sophomore, but even last year as a freshman, kind of playing out of position at third base, he's just always talking, and in a positive way, obviously. And he's also, he's cranked 6 or 7 home runs, and he's just a really great player. I hope you guys get a chance to see him play if you haven't already. So I like that. I like that series. I just think my mind is kind of set that UCLA deserves to get a little accolades, and I think that they kind of deserve it. They played a great schedule. I know the RPI isn't really anything you should look at yet, but if you want to look at it, they're in the top 10, and their strength of schedules also in the top 10. So I think that's a team that's really on the up and up this year, and I think Indiana's going to have a tough time against them. Indiana I saw against UNLV in that opening weekend. They're a northern team that's going to be better as the year goes on. We've talked about that ad nauseum over the years, but there's just one of those northern teams that are going to be really good. You can just kind of see it. They have some oomph to them. Their batting order, especially Devin Taylor, but right now they're not quite there yet, and I think that's what gives UCLA a big advantage this coming weekend.
Oh man, yeah, that UCLA, man, I'm with you. Like I feel safe speaking for the group, Stitch, where UCLA is literally our 26th team. Like if one more team had a tough weekend last weekend, UCLA would have been ranked. Like they're right there, and I think they're on everybody's radar for all the reasons you mentioned. They just were way too young last year for this, the current version of college baseball. And now everybody's a year older, and Rock Chalowski didn't transfer. He stayed. And I also like that they dealt with a lot of not of their doing adversity in the fall, right? Like they lost their facility for a stretch of time. Like I feel like there's some really functional scar tissue for this UCLA team. By the way, Stitch, when you mentioned Connor Burns, I loved him. What an elite defender. That made me think of David Banuelos, who was also an unreal catcher for Long Beach State. And the other night, as I was watching some Wheels videos, catching up on results, I got melancholy because I thought of the 2017 Super Regional where Long Beach State hosted Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
David Banuelos was that catcher, and it's like that was like church to me, that Super Regional. Like that was unbelievable. And that just feels like a long time ago right now, which makes me sad.
Especially considering, where those teams are, the programs are now, and state schools in California they don't have money. They don't have money to be able to get to the level they'd like to be at. I just don't think so. But yeah, that was something else, man. That was seeing those two rivals in that stadium going crazy. That was one of the best Super Regionals I remember.
I'll tell this. Joe's probably heard me tell this story, but Gabe Gross was the analyst for that game. Gabe Gross, former Auburn All-American and big leaguer, Auburn, and now he's the hitting coach at Auburn. He was still working for ESPN at the time, and he was getting ready to do that. He got that assignment, and he called me and said, "Hey," like he was a little panicked because obviously, he's an SEC guy, and he's not covering Long Beach State and Fullerton, and he's like, "What can you tell me?" And I'm like. Gabe, you're going to have a spiritual experience. I'm telling you, like you might cry. Like it is such a beautiful brand of baseball. And Joe is as big of a big West wonk as any of us. So anyway, what a nice tangent you took me on there, Stitch. Go ahead, man. Joseph.
Yeah, it's one of the, first of all, thank you for acknowledging, Runes. One of the big misconceptions is, me as yes, I cover the SEC primarily here, but I love, I mourn the some of the old West Coast powers and those matchups out there, and I would love nothing more than for those kind of historical powers out there to figure something out in this current climate and get back to national relevancy. So here, I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I made a note. Functional Scar Tissue is also the name of a punk band I was in for a while. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Like it.
I was a big fan.
It.
I don't know if you knew that.
We opened for the Sex Pistols one time.
Yeah, beauty. Barf on the stage. Cool.
I'm going to go Michigan State, Penn State. I've seen Michigan State in person. Obviously, Joe Jurwa is a lot of fun. Michigan State's going to be in a lot of Friday games. I mean, that's just the thing. They're going to win a lot of Friday games. What they get after that is kind of a crapshoot. I think we saw that last week against Iowa, where they win an extra inning game in game one, and then the next two games didn't go nearly as well. And they have bullpen issues in particular. I actually like their team a lot, but it feels like the Big Ten is deep enough this year to where I'm not sure what that amounts to. Right? They could be better and finish seventh. And it's like, okay, that's great, I guess, but that's not going to get you in the postseason. So I wonder in this series against a Penn State team that I think we think is pretty good, do they look the part? Or is this kind of like maybe the clock starting to run out a little bit on Michigan State as like a fun little early season story? And then for Penn State, I think on the flip side of it, tough loss to Rune's Lafayette Leopards.
Go
in the
Pards.
midweek.
Roll damn Pards.
Jokes aside, not great for the RPI, by the way, if they're looking to be an at-large team. But I think it's a team that passes the eye test. Penn State, they're going to be at home this weekend. This will actually be a series that'll have my attention. Like I'm gonna fire up the old Big Ten Plus app and see what's what.
Yeah.
But hoping they've upgraded the streaming setup at Penn State. I have not seen it yet this year, but I'm hopeful that is the case for the series.
Yeah, that is. Joe,
with the Gambino.
Go ahead, Sitch.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, with Mike Gambino as the coach, the Gambino crime family is going to chip in some money for whatever they need to be done to that live stream. So you'll be all right. And by the way, guys, I just thought I'd point this out. My phone, which I'm using on this, has officially told me I'm getting low on energy. So if I suddenly just vaporize, that's why.
You're getting low on energy, not your phone, correct?
Damn it. I'm never going to do that, Mike. Come on. You know that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I actually, the Rooneys, Patrick Ebert, I listened to him and Burt Granger's Big Ten podcast, and they were talking about Big Ten Plus and its improvements. And I was called out, and I want to say, I want to just make it public. I'll say it again. Joe's heard me say it, but the Rooneys are now consumers of Big Ten Plus. We have made the purchase, and I would say it is improved. And I've never been this excited about Big Ten baseball ever in my 29 years of life. I've never been this excited about Big Ten baseball. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. We're in.
Runes, I have a quick little, if I may, on the Big Ten. Yes. It's a non-conference series, but Minnesota's playing High Point this weekend. High Point has a freshman arm named Wade Walton, who is probably worth your time. I'm not sure if the High Point coaches want me to say that because there might be some pre-scouting of him, if you catch my drift. But
rhymes with pampering.
But the guy is legit. I heard about him in the fall because I went to see High Point this fall. It's just a quick trip up the road for me, and he's the real deal, and he's a big part of, I think, a team that could win the Big South again. So Minnesota is going to have to. That's not a series. Minnesota fans might see High Point on the schedule and think, okay, this will be, we'll just walk over this series. That it's not going to be the case. So that'll be interesting.
Can you imagine mid-major coaches calling the witness protection agency saying, hey, have you guys ever had a freshman pitcher with a really good arm that you needed to put a different name on and maybe give a different identity? How do you hide a guy? How do you hide a good right-hander? Witness protection program. Talk to me.
Yeah.
All right, boys, let's wrap with this. I have a potluck section for us. Potluck section. Well, the marquee dish in this section would be ranked Coastal at ranked Troy, the Troy Trogies, as Skylar Mead would say. So the Chanticleers at the Trogies. We've got Western Kentucky, who I believe is 19-1, if not 20-1. They are going to Kennesaw State. Samford, Kennesaw State. If you gave me 5 guesses, I'm not sure I could tell you what conference they're in. I think they're in Conference USA, and I think that's right. But gosh dang it, like I wanted to put
I thought it was Atlantic Sun.
Yeah, I think they used to be in that, in fairness to us. But Western Kentucky at Kennesaw State, Samford at East Tennessee State, who just took down Tennessee, Samford at ETSU, and then McNeese at Southeastern Louisiana, McNeese at SELA. Stitch, what do you like there? You were a Louisianan for one point in your life.
Yes. I would love to go to that Southeast Series because I think they still serve gumbo and jambalaya at those games for concessions. And I tell you what, if I still lived in Louisiana, I'd weigh like 500 pounds. The food there is just insane. If you guys get a chance to eat some good Cajun food, please do. But I'm kind of looking at this. Speaking of sort of hometown, Western Kentucky is in the 3rd year of Mark Reardon, is his name.
Reardon. It's said not like you spell it. It's Reardon, like Reardon, like the reliever for the Expos a million years ago. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I've butchered that myself. Yes.
Okay. I'd never heard it spoken from before. So he's from Iowa Western JC, and he coached there. I don't know. You might know more about him than I do, Runes, but I think he coached there like 15 or 20 years.
Yeah. He had a great run.
Yeah. And the only reason I knew about Iowa Western in Council Bluffs, Iowa, was because they won all the time as a JC. I'm just really glad. I mean, being an Omaha native, I'm really glad that, kind of a dude that came through Council Bluffs is doing so well at Western Kentucky. The thing I have to say about it, though, and I hope to say this quickly so my phone doesn't run out of juice. Western Kentucky, don't get used to him being there long if he's going to continue going 20-1 to start seasons, because he's going to get snapped up by somebody. So I really look forward to seeing that and how they do against Kennesaw State. I just think they haven't played a great schedule. I think their best win is against Southern Illinois, who, for whatever reason, right now is ranked at number 25 in the RPI. But that's their best win.
The Valley knows.
Obviously the RPI is not really cogent right now. But they also have they hit 339 as a team, and they're second in the country in pitching at 2.69. So I think that's really great. No matter what the competition they've played, it'll get tougher. And Kennesaw State's not having a banner year, but they'll be a tougher draw because they do have to go on the road. Western Kentucky has surprisingly played like 16 or 17 home games this year, even though it's not exactly in the heat belt. So yeah, that'll be the one I'm looking forward to seeing, and just kind of not necessarily that I expect them to lose this, but just I want to see what Western Kentucky does as the season goes along.
That's amazing. Southern Illinois having an amazing. They Lance Rhodes can really coach. That's another coach that a mid-major might have a tough time hanging on to. He's awesome. Southern Illinois has got a good program. They are due for an NCAA tournament appearance, but them having an elite RPI, the Missouri Valley coaches, they have a parallel plot. Their national secret is RPI. Their parallel plot is them with RPI to the movie The National Treasure series with Nicolas Cage. Like that's the Valley with RPI. They've got some 300-year-old secrets that they keep in a vault somewhere that we're either going to need Indiana Jones or Nicolas Cage's character from National Treasure to discover. And they should never share it because it's one of the coolest things about college baseball. Stitch, do you have to sign off because your phone's going to die, or do you think you got another?
Last I saw it was down to 5%, and that was a few minutes ago.
All right, go charge your phone. Enjoy Southern California this weekend. We'll wrap it from here.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to see you. I'll see you guys in Omaha.
Thank you. Boy, that was a treat. Joseph, what do you want to do from the potluck section?
Yeah, let's and I'll echo some of what Stitch said. Like, I'll add about Kennesaw State. They're very talented. They've kind of underachieved their talent level so far, I would say. I think they're dealing with some injuries, but that's a team I really like the talent on. So that will be a tough test for Western Kentucky to lead off CUSA play, because you are correct. They are in CUSA,
Yes.
Kennesaw and Western Kentucky. I'm going to go Troy and Coastal. This feels a little like the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other, where it's two good offenses. It's two teams that are probably a little light on the mound, for what you'd like. But ultimately two teams that we like a whole lot. We talked about in our rankings meeting just how we kind of wish we already had last week. We already had this result in hand, because we were kind of weighing, Troy and Coastal as among the teams kind of at the back of the rankings, but it could be the series of the year in that league. Obviously Southern Miss will have something to say about that as well, but this could be a series we look back on in May and realize that was the turning point in the conference race.
Yeah, it's Coastal is better than I thought. Have you had Coastal in any of your games yet, Joe, or you've not had Coastal yet?
Yeah, I've seen them quite a bit. I saw them opening weekend on the writing side, and then I called one of their midweeks against Carolina, which they pushed North Carolina at extra innings.
Yeah, they're better than I thought. Like their weekend pitching, I don't like, to your point, they don't have great pitching depth, but their weekend pitching is good, and their position player group's a little on the small size. But Caden Bodine is that's an All-American caliber player, and Blake Cavell, the first baseman at Troy, is Australian. He might be one of the funnest characters in college baseball, and I don't know if Shane Lewis is healthy, but didn't he get hurt?
He did. Yeah, I was actually there that weekend. That was at USC Upstate, and he dove for a ball and banged up his shoulder. I don't anticipate him being back anytime soon, I wouldn't think. By the way, Cavell has a pet tarantula named Blueberry. There's a little fun fact for you. That's a true fact, Runes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Speaking of living in the mountains, I had to shoo a tarantula off of our patio one time. That was a harrowing experience.
Yeah,
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you.
During their mating season, they are like drunken, like really drunk sailors. Like they are, no offense, sailors, but like, and they're like, I spent a lot of Googling on it. They just get out of their mind. And man, that thing was glaring at me like, I will end you. It was, I had a snow shovel to get that thing out of there. I hurled it about 7,000 feet. I could have.
You were doing were you doing like what was your technique? Was it like a scoop and a fling?
It was a scoop, and I went from a low arm slot for the sling, because I didn't want to go over my head and have it land on my head. So I went scoop and like sidearm sling, and the adrenaline really. If I usually sit 72 to 75, I definitely geeked up to about 81 on that one.
Okay, yeah, I believe it. I think that's good technique. I think that's probably how I would have done it too.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So, yeah, it's who is the new coach at Southeastern Louisiana? Because Coach Reiser is now at Memphis. Is it Coach Barbier from Northwestern State?
Bobby Barbier. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that how you say it too, Barbier? I think that's how you say it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it tells you, just as a quick little nerdy little tidbit there, like it tells you that at that level of college baseball, there are still kind of differences. I mean, those two schools might seem similar to you, Southeastern and Northwestern State, but like if you really get down to the nitty-gritty details, you have Bobby Barbier, a successful head coach at Northwestern State and an alum, ends up at Southeastern because they just have some things that Northwestern doesn't. And so that's on the outside to folks who only follow college baseball at the highest levels might not understand that there are striations at those lower levels with different programs.
Yeah, so good. Joseph, let's wrap it right there. That was tremendous. That was really fun. Always a pleasure having Stitch there. I want to remind everybody, Kendall has got a coupon for us right now. Omaha 30 gets you 30% off at checkout. That's the biggest coupon of the year. Remember, you just don't want to go through the season without access to the leaderboards. Who are the teams that are leading in whatever category, the individual leaders. Like, is anyone going to catch Justin LeBron on home runs? Bradley Smart wrote an incredible article about Peter Michael, the Sunday starter for Louisville, he went from San Diego, I think, to Northwestern to Louisville, if I have the three schools right. Like, super unique. And, other cool thing is if you purchase SEC Extra, because you love what Mark and Joe are doing, you get ACC Extra for free, and vice versa. If you purchase ACC Extra, you get SEC Extra for free. So, and what a treat having Stitch on. You get his column off the top of your head, which is, a play on words. Stitch also, let me just recap tonight, Joe, and then we will wrap. So just because we had Stitch on tonight. First of all, he shows up in the people that saw the video. He puts Eric Sorenson Esquire, which is amazing. He's wearing a Montreal Canadiens hat, which is also amazing. Mm-hmm. There was an undisclosed drink in his glass that was brown. It was brown in color. Yes. So, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't iced tea. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yep.
So that's amazing. He uses the expression dolphin shorts. He uses the expression bee's knees. We talked about Abilene, Texas, and Morgantown, West Virginia. We talked about Rattlesnake Airlines. We talked about Connor Burns and David Banuelos. I contributed one thing, the expression functional scar tissue. Joe trumped that with the Sex Pistols. We brought up the Iowa Western Reavers. Joe, my heart is full. We had a full
packed show. Absolutely packed show, Runes, for all the right reasons.
For all the right reasons. So that is it, everybody. We get 3 games still. Actually, Florida State has terminated Miami for the evening. The 2 SEC games are still going on. That is it. Everybody have a great weekend. Weekend 6 is upon us, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.